Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode. I am here with Shilamida. Shilamida is a 3 times best-selling author, transformation and lifestyle mentor, freedom enthusiast, and goddess of gratitude. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to dive into these questions, but just to start, could you tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got into the work that you do today?
Yeah, so my journey is the title of my second book, which is From Food Stamps to First Class. And it started in my teens. My father was diagnosed with leukemia when I was 17. My mom had breast cancer when I was like in my young 20s. And so from 17 to 27, all I knew was cancer. And so I found Kabbalah when I was around 23. And Kabbalah really started to teach me that we're not all here to live 100 years, that we're all here with a purpose. And it really started to give me purpose, and it taught me how to become the best version of me. And all those years ago, I ended up on food stamps, 250 pounds, single mom. Right after my dad passed away, it was like my whole life whirlwind. And in that moment, all I wanted to do was help other people. And I'm like, I just want to become a motivational speaker. I want to become an author. But it was like, who is going to listen to me? You know, like my life was shambles. And so in that moment, I declared that if the universe would just send me on the right path, that I would help people along the way. You know, if like I could change my story, then other people could change their story. And so that's the short version.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Are your books on Amazon?
My books are on Amazon. They're also on my website, which is shilamida.com.
Amazing. And what are your other 2 books?
The first book is called 31 Days of Gratitude, Create the Life You Desire. So Kabbalah gave me an introduction to spirituality because I didn't grow up religious. But then when I was about 26, 27, I had met a new friend and she came to my apartment. My son was probably about 9 months old. My life was miserable. And she was like, you complain a lot. And I'm like, oh, she's like, you're really negative. And I was like, okay, nice to meet you, you know?
Yeah.
And like in that moment, my ego was just like, listen, you have to listen to her. Cause at that point I was already asking for help, you know? And so she was like, haven't you ever heard of the law of attraction? And I was like, like I've heard of it before, but like, I guess I don't really understand it. She was like, well, haven't you heard of The Secret? And it was so wild because I had the law of attraction, the book, on my bookshelf in my bedroom for 7 years. And I touched it once. I read 3 pages and I put it on the shelf. I never read it again.
Wow.
And then when she said The Secret, I had The Secret sitting in my dining room on CD set. But I made every excuse in the book. Like, I don't like to read. I don't like to listen. I don't like to do this. I don't like to do that, which is why my life was a mess, right? Because like literally the tools were in my home.
Gosh.
Like the universe was like, here, I'm giving you everything you need. Yeah.
That's amazing.
So that's how it happened for me. After she said those words to me, every time I went to go complain, I heard myself before the complaint came out of my mouth. And I was like, no, I take that back and I'm going to be grateful instead. So the first book is called 31 Days of Gratitude, Create the Life You Desire. It's a journal. So there's like 8 to 10 pages of reading. And then every day there's like a spiritual blurb. And then I give you sample affirmations. And then there's room for you to do your own affirmations. So in the beginning, when I was learning about manifesting and gratitude, it was really hard for me to be grateful. Like my life was misery, I thought. You know, now I look back and I was like, I had it so good, even though I had it so bad in the moment, right? But in the moment, you just don't appreciate it.
Yeah.
And so I decided that the first book I was going to come out with was a book that was going to help somebody that was in the same place I was, like that just needed a kick, needed help being grateful, needed help realizing like there's so many things around us in the moment that we take for granted.
Wow. That's so powerful. What an amazing story. And what a good friend because she could have just as easily been like, yeah, your life sucks. I'm so sorry. You know?
Totally. I
That's
mean, it just like, looking back in hindsight, like I see every sign. Like the person that told me to get the Law of Attraction book, I was 21 years old, 22 years old. Like I had it, but it just like I wasn't ready for it.
yeah. And when the student is ready, the teacher appears, and sometimes the book's already in your house. That's incredible. Oh my gosh. That's so cool. You were just always being guided.
Yeah,
Looking back, you were always being guided.
always, always. But in the moment, I didn't realize it because I didn't learn to trust my intuition until much, much later,
Yeah.
So yeah, in the
Wow.
moment, I didn't realize it at all.
Yeah.
It's only in like the recent years that I'm really like, wow, like I could like spell it out so clearly now.
Yeah. I love that. I feel like those books were, especially The Secret, that was like a gateway for so many people into the law of attraction. That was when I think I first found it and heard about it. And then like I got into it with Abraham Hicks and all that, but it was, I love that. I love that like it kind of shone this light on this truth that is so helpful to our lives.
Well, they call it The Secret, and it's like, it's really not a secret,
Yeah.
right? And it's really so simple
Yeah.
when you think about it. But even when you know it and you live it, we still overcomplicate it.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing to see like all of the people before us who have used these tools and what their lives have turned into. And then in the online space, all of the people who are alongside of us, like the evidence is there. It's like,
Yeah.
when people watch my life, I'm like, I am evidence. Like I share because I want you to know that you get to live like this too. Like I had some dude come after me a few weeks ago and he's like, you're bragging. And I'm like, I'm not bragging. Like I could never post on social media ever again. And I'm so happy and content in my life.
Yeah.
I post because I want you to know that this is possible. Like every single thing that you see is on a vision board. It's in a journal. It's written down. It was in a meditation, it's like my life is so intentional
Mhm.
and I work at that,
Yeah.
and so if you want to work at it, you can have that too.
And you could have just as easily been like, I was dealt a bad hand. Like I had a lot of traumatic stuff happen in my teens and 20s. And like, this is just life, just as easily. Like you could still be living that way.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I could be living a very different life right now.
Yeah. You said in one of your posts, if you want a big life, you're going to have to live through big, hard things.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So I'm living through a very big restructuring in my life right now. Like nobody really knows what happens behind social media, right? And so it's big. Like my heart is so heavy. There's a lot of people on my team who are all leaving at once. And it came out of left field, but at the same token, I've been really praying on an up level. And the next level for me is really big. I'm like shaking, like even, telling you this right now.
Yeah.
And I like have a village here at my house. I have a nanny, I have a house manager, I have an assistant. We have 5 kids. Like, I run an empire here. And so next month I'm down to 0 and I have to make some really big moves. Like people left on their own. I have to let people go.
Yeah.
And it's a lot.
Yeah.
Big. And so that's just me and what I'm going through. Then there's my husband. And like my husband has a business where he has 175 employees. So there's like a lot happening right now, and then like on social media, it's like you see the dates and you see the yachts and you see the vacations, but you don't see what's happening in the back end, But this is like the calmest I've ever been in my life because I understand that this restructuring is happening for my next level. And I have a tendency of holding on to people longer than I should. because I feel bad and I have loyalty. And so when we are manifesting,
Mhm.
a lot of people are asking for really big things, right? People want money, people want cars, people want jewelry, people want bags and whatever.
Yeah.
And so in order to have that kind of stuff, you have to elevate to a certain level. And
Mhm.
so one of the best analogies I heard a few weeks ago was life is like an elevator, right? And so when we're born, we're at level 1, and every year or every time you up level, you go up a level on the elevator of dimensions, right? And so when we land at every level, we repeat a lot of the lessons and the tests over and over again.
Yeah.
But at every level, our emotional intelligence changes, hopefully, if you're doing the spiritual development work. And
Yeah.
so you're going to react and respond to things much different. So if I was dealing with what I'm dealing with now 5 years ago, the 5 years ago version of me wouldn't have been able to handle what's happening right now, you know? So in this game called life, when you're looking to do big things, you're going to have to live through big things because you get the reward, but with the reward comes a, can you handle this?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And with everything that's happening, it's happening for your greater good.
Yeah.
So you can't even I can't even be mad about it. Like I let myself be sad yesterday. That's probably when I was, I was like, the good part about this is that the content that's now pouring out of me.
Silver lining.
Because nobody knows the detail. It's like, just this is the intensity of what I'm feeling right now,
Yeah, you're playing a big game, and with a big game, big things happen, good and bad. So
Yeah.
I also feel like anytime I've ever had a huge manifestation come through or a huge quantum leap, things fall apart right before every single time. Like it's like it just happens that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's the thing, right? Big things require, that's just the way that it goes. But it's like every time that happens, I feel like I'm so much more equipped emotionally and in my body, and like, okay, like we're going to move through this. And once it's over, it's going to be so good. But like in the thick of it, it's like, it's ever going to end, but it happens faster every time, faster, faster, faster.
Mhm.
So it's like
'Cause I
whatever
feel
you're living through right now, it's not going to last forever, But the things 20 years ago that I was worried about that dragged on forever, it's like now it's like 5 minutes, like we don't have time for that. We got to keep going. Got to keep going.
yeah, you recognize it now. And like it's just this, I feel like you just get to surrender into it, and then there you go. It's done. Yeah.
The surrender is huge. The surrender is really huge. I hired a new mentor, and I messaged her when all of this went down the other day, and I knew what her response was going to be, and she's like, this is perfect. This is exactly what you need to happen right now. And like, I know it, but all my people have been with me for 3+ years. So it's like it's like grief,
Yeah, totally. And it's hard to find, well, let's not say that it's hard to find good people, but it can be. I mean, when you find your people, you're like, these are my people. You don't want that to end.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You teach that at any given moment, you can decide that you want it all to change. And that's all it takes, is to just tap into the feelings inside and then take uncomfortable action towards your desire. I feel like you're really speaking from personal experience here, like with your life, but could you just tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. I mean, it's on the same trajectory. Like we want for all of these things and then opportunities land in front of us, but we don't go after them, or we'll make excuses to not do the thing. And what I've really been realizing lately is that we're so used to living in comfort, even when it's so uncomfortable, and it's like in this given situation, when you have an employee that like you're just dragging things out with, and every day you're thinking about that in the negative, or if there's like a business that you really want to start, and every single day you're ignoring the things that you need to do to get there, and you're just making these excuses, right? It's like we just get in our own way of everything. But it's really so simple when you surrender, like you know what you desire. So you've already put that out into the universe. And this is assuming that, the people that are watching this understand a little bit about manifesting. If you don't, then we got to go back and do like a crash course. But for those of you that get it, it's like you've already put it out there in the universe, what you desire. So now you have to lean back, right? Everybody always hears this, lean back. Like, what does that mean? It means go live life. You can't stress about the thing, because if you're stressing about the thing, now you're in lack energy. And so then you're just going to attract more lack. You're never going to get the thing, So I've manifested some of the craziest things ever, the craziest. But it was like the thought of it was so crazy that I lived in that desire for a moment, and then I let it go. And then poof, get it.
Yes.
Right?
Those are the best ones.
The best. The best. My last manifestation like that was a $200,000 manifestation. It's like wild, right? But when there's something that you desire and you like live in it, and then you live in it some more, and then you live in it some more, and then you start to doubt yourself on whether or not you're going to get it. And then, right, you start to like create these scenarios that really are not. And then next thing you know, you're not manifesting the thing. And you're wondering why you're not manifesting the thing. But I just got this crazy thing because this crazy thing didn't seem like it could be real right now. So I was able to dream that feeling of like, just right.
Yes, it's amazing. It's like, you're right. The bigger manifestations are easier because we don't sit there and be like, okay, now how do I make it happen? What do I have to do? Like, what's my plan? No, you're like, that would be amazing. And then you just let it go.
Yeah. So when they say that you have to feel it and then detach from it, like that's what it is. It's like, I don't actually think that this thing is going to manifest right now. So let me just like feel it for the moment. Like, yes, it's mine. Poof. And now I go on. Right. But when it's something like you're about to launch a course and you want 20 people, or you need 20 people to sign up for it. Right. And then you put it out there, and then you start thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it. And then you're like just messing with the whole energy of it,
Totally. Oh my gosh, totally. You'd be better off being like, I hope 100 people sign up. Like something totally wild.
For like 1 second, and then let it go,
Oh, yeah. Oh my God.
Just show up.
Yeah.
And then like, just stop the mind in between.
Yes. That's such good advice.
So simple, but yet it's so hard.
Yeah, exactly. It's so easy to say, but then when you're in the trenches, you're like, need
it's
those
tough in the
people.
trenches.
Yeah.
It is tough in the trenches.
You say that you can learn to work with energy or allow it to work against you and play the victim for your lifetime. How do you help your clients to get out of victimhood and to work with their energy instead of letting things work against them?
Well, it's, believing in manifesting, right? Believing in the evidence of what we're seeing. Like there's the people who are just going to continue being miserable their whole lives because they don't want to put in the effort and the work to do the personal development work. It was very easy for me to play victim when I was younger. Now I even have a hard time being sick because when I was younger, I would embellish things and I was like a hypochondriac. And it was like, that was the only way that I received love. So, going to the hospital was like a normal thing for me, And so I understand how easy it is to fall into the victim. But at this point in like spiritual awareness, it's like, when you get into an argument with someone, like that woman could be the biggest bitch of all time, right? But there's something about me that caused that. Right? Like I'm in this situation because I showed up for it. So it's like really being able to take a look inside of yourself and being like, okay, like which part of me is acting in ego and which part of me needs to be healed, and how do I learn from this situation so I don't come up against this again. That's the way that I try to live life. Like situations that I don't like, I really try to do the spiritual work against, because like I said before, when I get back on the elevator and I meet that lesson again on the next level, well, it's not going to be as traumatic this time if I do the work this time. But most people don't. Most people will like get into the argument. They're going to hold the grudge forever. Every time they're going to think about this person, they're going to send negative vibrations out into the world. They're going to think that they're sweeping it under the rug, but you never do, because our cords are attached. So that energy is always there. But if you were to cut the cord right away, like, okay, I didn't like the way this went down. Like, she's a bitch, but this is what I did. And I'm going to like own up to that and move on. It's like, and let her go, send her love, right? Like that's an important piece of the puzzle is forgiveness, love, and gratitude. That's it. Practice those three things in your life. Life starts becoming so good.
Really good. Yeah. I heard someone say once, even like the very, very worst, most horrible things that happen to you, like if you could just take even 1% responsibility, you can shift out of victimhood. And I feel like there's things, sometimes I wonder if like things that happened in childhood or things that happen to children, like, I don't know how we apply that to that, but as an adult, almost everything that happens, even when it's not your fault at all, if you can just find a small percentage of responsibility in it, it's so empowering.
Well, even when it happens as children, understanding that that's the path that we chose.
Yeah.
I mean, we come here, we know that things are going to happen. Like I really contemplate on this like a lot, because, like there's some really horrible things that happen on a daily basis to like a lot of people. There's like a lot of suffering that happens. And like, I think about it often, like this is the track that I chose, but like for whatever reason, like the duality of what they needed to learn or the karma of what they need to experience, like there's so many reasons why people are living the way that they are. But, in my teaching, it's like everybody has a choice, right? Like all of this information is available to all of us. Like everybody has it at their fingertips. Like it's like, just like I had a choice at 21 years old, like how different would my life have been had I read that law of attraction book and like absorbed it and started practicing that then. It's like from the point that I had that book, I went to making a 6-figure salary to losing it all, gaining 100 pounds, getting pregnant out of wedlock, and living on food stamps for the next 5 years. It's like, how does that happen? But somewhere in that journey, I made the choice to suffer and to play the victim and to head down that path. And now I understand that I did that because there was a lot of ancestral healing that I needed to do for my lineage. So like now I understand like that's the path. I had to live that path because I was a 6-figure earner when I was 23 years old. So how does that happen? right? There's always a reason.
Yeah. And now, I mean, I feel like in your work now, you get to help people no matter this. I mean, people in really bad circumstances, they can't say that you haven't been there.
Exactly. Well, anything that people say to me, oh, well, you haven't been cheated on. Yes, I have. Well, you haven't been the other woman. Yes, I have. Well, you've never grieved. Yes, I have. Well, you never divorced. You know, it's like anything that you're going to come at me with, like we can come out of. And, you know, my book From Food Stamps to First Class, like the way that that book is written, it's very like brash, you know, like you get very triggered very fast in that book.
Tough love.
But if you connect, that book is going to like shift you in a heartbeat, because like I share my deepest, darkest moments in that book. And that's the journey, you know, it's the journey to now. I was watching something that Amanda Francis was selling the other day, and she does like, you know, she sells courses that are old videos.
Yeah.
And so people sometimes complain about it. And she's like, but the thing that you don't understand is like, that's the journey that got me here.
Yeah.
So I could do videos for you now, but you're going to be very disconnected, right? Like, that's how I feel like in my life now, like I'm very disconnected from like average, and I'm super disconnected from food stamps.
Yeah.
But the journey that got me here is in those books, those stories, the lives from 5 years ago, you know?
I love that perspective, because I feel like sometimes I will record a program or something, or record a masterclass, and then I'm like, oh, but that's not relevant anymore. But you're right. It's relevant to that time. And for somebody who's on that journey, that's so helpful. And sometimes like the coaches that I have now, they're making like millions and millions of dollars. And I'm like, I just want you to tell me, like, how did you get started? Like,
Yeah.
what did you do when you were where I am? Like, how did you get from here to here? So you're right. It's like, it's this journey, and everything is valuable.
Yeah. So like, yeah, the millionaire coaches are great now, you know, like I understand that conversation now, but you know, the me 5 years ago wouldn't have been able, you know, it would have gone like straight over my head. So there's an energetic match at every level. And the old version of me is very powerful, because the old version of me is so much more relatable,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yes. Oh my gosh. I love that. That's so helpful. You have this post about, it says you hold the power to live the most magical life, but you have to create it. You are the author. You have to co-create with the energy of God or source. You have to feel it, all of it, before it's yours. You have to feel an aligned feeling and then take action. How would you suggest that people do get into that feeling of like getting to their dreams and their desires, but it's not in their current reality right now?
Like, I would do things to simulate that scenario. So like, let's say it's the ocean that you want to be by. I would set up like a little, you know, thing outside where you're on a beautiful night under the stars, and I would put on ocean wave music, and I would sit in a beach chair, and I would like just create the whole vibe in your environment, and then close your eyes and go inward and like smell the ocean air, like listen to those sounds. Like, what else would you be doing in that moment? You know, it's like just tapping into that feeling, like it's already there. Like, you know, if you're looking for love, like it's not about tall, dark, handsome, like forget about that. Like, what does he make you feel like inside, right? Like when I'm with my partner, like I feel safe, I feel loved, I feel like this beautiful energy, like this warmth inside, right? So you could feel that in there. I get like so giddy. Because you go into a dream state, right? And because you're not in this position, it's like what I was talking about before with the $200,000 manifestation. Like, you're dreaming in it for the moment, and then you're letting go and you're going back to real life because that's just what it is, right? But you're creating these pockets of joy, and the universe doesn't know that you're sitting on the stoop in the inner city, listening to sound waves, or you're on the island of Turks and Caicos, because in your mind and in your feeling, you're creating that.
Yeah.
So that's where the response comes in. So a lot of times people are just operating in jealousy, right? Like, you see me on vacation and you're like pissed, like, this fucking girl goes somewhere every month. Why does she get to travel like that, right? So this was the old version of me. This is the food stamps version of me. That's what I used to do, right? Until one day I was like, no, wait. Like, if she's on that island, that means I could be on that island, right? And then all of a sudden I would send her love. I would thank her for showing me that that was possible. And then I would tap into like the dream state of like, I'm so grateful I get to be there. I'm so grateful I'm on a yacht. I'm so grateful I'm with the man, And that's how you start to cultivate the energy of manifesting. That's why it can all change in a second, because like, if you can go in and out of the dream and let it go, like, it's going to start to pop and everything's going to start to snowball.
Oh, I love it. I feel like it's just the fun part too, because you get to use your creativity and your visualization, and like, it's fun if you let it be fun.
Totally. But a lot of people that are miserable or depressed or have anxiety, or you don't know how you're going to eat your next meal, like, it's hard to tap into that. Like, I get that, right? That's why I wrote 31 Days of Gratitude, Create the Life You Desire, because back then it was hard for me to tap into that. But I can tell you, like, I had visions of having this large family and sitting at this long table. And the first house that my husband and I rented, like, it was half furnished and it came with this dining room table. Like, I saw it in like a vision, it was like so wild. And when my husband and I met, I had one son, he had two, and then we had two together. So there was the long table with all the children.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. It's wild. I read this book about, and I'm not going to be able to remember the name of the book or the author, but it was about manifestation. And what she did was she went and she interviewed a bunch of like celebrities or famous sports players and how they got there. And all of them had like a very visual, they would like play a movie in their head before the things would happen. And then those things that they imagined literally came into reality. It's so powerful.
So powerful.
There's so many stories like that.
And so that's the thing, like, when someone chooses victimhood, like, it really is a choice. I mean, and that's not to say that if you live a magical manifested life, that bad things or hard things aren't going to happen. They are. Like, things are still going to happen. It's just the way that we react to them happens different, and the outcome, I feel like we can change. Like, for instance, last year my husband decided to do a water fast, and the day after the water fast he decided to eat chicken wings, and 2 days after the water fast he decided to drink red wine. And so several days later he woke me up and he was like, I am in so much pain, you have to help me, something's wrong. So he looked like he was manifesting appendicitis. So I'm like, let's go to the hospital. So he wanted to go to hospital. It's like half an hour away. He's like telling me to speed through red lights. Like, it was crazy. And so I'm like, pray to the angels, like, just pray to God, pray to anybody to like help us right now, So we get to the hospital and like the triage nurse was like, oh, he's presenting as a kidney stone. So I'm like, okay, great. No problem. We can deal with the kidney stone. Then we get into like the ER, and there was like 3 gurneys deep. And I'm like, oh my God, like, where did I bring him? It like was like a horror movie,
Yeah.
right? And so we ended up getting this like amazing doctor, and they did a CAT scan. They found a small kidney stone, which, so she was right. But when on the other kidney, they found a mass, like a massive mass,
Oh
right?
my gosh, yeah.
So now the doctor's like, well, there's only 2 people in this hospital that I would allow to like operate on my family. If they're here, do you want to see them? We were like, yes. So the guy comes down. He was the best. He made us feel so comfortable. He's like, even if it's cancer, once we get it out, it's out. There's no treatment. You're fine. Right.
Amazing.
So by the time we knew, and then like now in the medical world, I don't know if you know what's happening, but like to get any kind of test or service, it takes months.
Yep.
It takes months and like hoops to go through. This happened on a Thursday. My birthday party was on Saturday. I throw myself this huge party every year, so we didn't have to cancel the party. And then his surgery was on Tuesday.
Mhm.
And then I think like a week later, we found out that he did have cancer, that it was completely gone, and they saved like 95% of his kidney.
Oh my gosh. So best case, like that's incredible.
So now, like, if you really go deep with this story, my husband is 15 years older than me. So last year he turned 57. And so my dad passed away at 57.
Oh my
So
goodness.
when we talk about cycles of life, like there's definitely like thoughts that crossed my mind as his birthday was approaching, like, you know, what is going to happen? And then this situation manifests, right? And again, like emotional intelligence wise, like I was able to handle it so much better.
Yeah.
And then the outcome was like mind-blowingly
Yeah.
amazing,
Yeah.
you know? So it's like, holy shit, like who lives with a cancer diagnosis like that? It's like boom, boom, boom. Like,
You're good. And if he hadn't had like a kidney stone, you might have not known it.
well, then it goes to the whole thing. Had he not done the water fast and then
Yeah.
acted stupidly after, you know, like that whole scenario sent us to where it sent us, you
Mhm.
know? So it's like everything's happening for us, you know. It's like the universe was like, no, we're not repeating the story. Like that was your dad that passed away, like that was his story, like we're
Yeah.
going to live a new story, so you don't have to live in worry land,
Yeah.
right? Because most people live in worry land, and then they're manifesting more things to worry about. So
Yeah.
like I don't live in worry land anymore, which is like so amazing to say, because I suffered with anxiety for probably 20 years.
Yeah.
So the fact that like now I'm like, okay, like trust,
Yeah.
trust, trust. That's it. Like trust. This is happening for you. This is happening because you put things out there in the universe that are, you know, are coming. Like I have no doubt in my mind what's about to happen.
Do you
Which,
ever fear, like, as a, you know, you're a powerful manifester and you've manifested all of these amazing things, but do you ever have like a moment of fear where you're like worried that you'll manifest your fears, the things you're afraid of?
no, because like I don't live in fear. There's like not much that I am afraid of, you know, like a girlfriend of mine, her house got robbed. And I was like, did you have thoughts that your house was going to get robbed? And she was like, yes. And so like, I don't think about things like that, you know, like I don't, and I used to be like that. Like I used to be like the worst case scenario in every scenario. But that was in like the tipping of, you know, learning the gratitude and learning how to manifest. Like you got to get yourself out of there. Like if I ever go there, I bring myself out as fast as I can. Like I now am aware and conscious of what I'm doing, and I bring myself back. And then thank God my partner is so aware too, because
Yeah.
he'll be like, what are you doing right now? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. So like the thought might cross your mind, but then you just don't give it energy.
Right. Like you have the thought and it's like, okay, no, I'm going to send that thought back. Let's rewrite that thought. Because, you know, and this is important for and the audience to hear is like, sometimes you have irrational thoughts, right? Like, and you think that like you're a psycho, right? And it's like, you shouldn't be thinking that, but like, just because you think it doesn't make you a bad person, right? It's like, but you have to be aware enough and conscious enough to be like, okay, that's not a good thought. Let's change the thought to something different, you know? And it's a constant working on yourself. It's like, it never ends, you know, you don't get to like a point of enlightenment where you're like, that's it, I live in harmony. No, like then you get on the elevator and you go to the next level. And all of a sudden you start to spiral through all the things that you've lived through before. So that's how it works. Then you just keep going higher and higher and higher. And then the rewards become bigger and bigger and bigger.
Oh, I love that so much. So inspiring.
This conversation is gold.
I know.
There are like clips of like such gold here, like literally, like I've tapped into that manifesting feeling so many times, and it's like so fun for me to talk about this with you, and it's so easy for me to go inward. But once this camera shuts off, like real life starts again. You know, it's not like I'm 24/7, you know, manifesting all these amazing things. Then I go back into the cycles and the crazy thoughts and the, you know, like it's always going to be a lifetime of checking in, being aware, being conscious, and bringing yourself back.
Yeah. And I feel like we would get bored if we didn't have to, if it just, like you said, like if we had just arrived and there's nothing more to learn and no other challenges, what would we do? Yeah. You teach us to ask, how is this serving me? And what is this teaching me? And where is this leading me? Every time something goes wrong, which I feel like we kind of just talked about that. It's like something, your husband has a kidney stone and you're like, damn it, like this sucks, this hospital, but it all ends up working out. And I feel like, but sometimes it doesn't happen that quick. Like there are bad things or what appear to be bad things. And it's years before you see what came out of it. So how do you walk yourself through that and your clients?
Well, you know, the more you do it, the easier it's going to get. You know, that's the whole evolution of emotional intelligence. Like if you hear, at first, like I didn't understand what those words meant, but now I get it. It's like everything that's happening, I'm able to see it right away, you know, pretty fast. But for some people, they're not. It's going to be in hindsight. When I was 27, I didn't see it. It was right in front of my face and I didn't see it. Right. But now that it's like, I'm ingrained like this. Like sometimes with my husband, my husband is a saint, by the way. And the conversations that happen here, sometimes I'm just like, we need a camera on us 24/7 because the shit that goes through my mind, like I really contemplate like some of the wildest things because, you know, like I think about right and wrong a lot.
Yeah.
Like what is right and what is wrong and who decides that. And
what do you think?
Well, so I don't think that there is right and wrong. I think that's between you and the creator, whoever, whatever you feel that is, you know. And like this year I did a lot of learning about Jesus, and one of my kids got turned on to Jesus. And so I went down this journey. And so I was raised Jewish, and I say that in quotations because my grandparents were Holocaust survivors. And so my parents, I called them breakaway Jews. Like they took me to temple, I didn't understand anything. So I didn't really have like a religious like faith. And so I never had any religious studies. So I started learning about Jesus, and like in the 10 Commandments, it's like, thou shalt not kill. But the animal kingdom is a part of God's kingdom. And in the animal kingdom, they kill, you know, like you kill each other, right? So while I understand that we need law and order to live as human beings, I don't necessarily agree that all the things that people get jailed for is our place to make that decision. You know, even things like wearing a seatbelt. You know, like, I don't think that the government has the right to tell me whether or not to wear the seatbelt. If I want to protect myself, then, and I choose, you know, I'm all about sovereignty. Like, I really feel like freedom at all costs. Like, it's freedom at all costs. And so in the human race, there has to be a right and a wrong so that we could coincide. Otherwise, we might all be killing each other on the street. We don't want that, you know. But I don't necessarily think that every murderer is going straight to hell.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't necessarily think that a lot of the people that are doing bad things, even though morally I don't agree with those things, but when I really sit and I contemplate about it, like, no human has a right to judge another human. And all the scriptures and all the Bibles and all the stories that we hear, it's like a game of telephone. It's not the actual message, because the actual message is already inside of us. That's our whole purpose, is that awakening of, I remember. Like, I remember that I'm divine. I remember that I came from source. I remember that I have the power. I remember that I came here for duality.
Yeah.
And I'm supposed to be happy. But like, I've been born into this life where, like, I'm scared of everything. Life is hard. People are mean. They make me cry. Don't feel good, you know? And then it's like hard. Like, when I started becoming happy all the time, probably like a year and a half ago. And it was like weird to me. I'm like, is this real? Am I allowed to feel like this all the time? Like, it really, like, after, you know, like the COVID hell that we lived through, like, I really had this emergence, and it was like, I don't know if I'm allowed to feel this good all the time. Like, there's so many people suffering, but then I have to remind myself, like, you suffered, you know, like, I suffered enough. I don't have to live there. I've figured out how to not be there, you know, but it almost feels wrong to feel this good.
Because most people don't.
And misery loves company, right? So all those years ago, when I had that friend tell me that I was so negative, nobody else told me I was negative, because everybody else was just as negative as me.
Yeah.
Right? Like, she was an outsider who came in. Had she not come in, I wouldn't have known. Nobody else would have said that to me. Everybody was busy complaining with me. So that's why, like, I love the online world, because you can connect to other people. Like, in your everyday life, you're not necessarily able to have a conversation with women who are making 6-7 figures, like, running their empires, you know, but in the online world, you have access to, like, everybody, you know?
I love everything you just said so much. I agree with you. I think that, like, sovereignty is wildly important. And I feel like I grew up very fundamentalist Christian, and I got away as far away from it as I could for a lot of years. But I've been reading the Bible again. And what I read now, when I read it, is like, sin isn't you did something wrong or you broke a rule. It's more like just the consequence of our separation from God, or our separation from love, which we always have access to reconnecting. But the world, it's not a perfect place, because we don't live 100% as one. We live in separation. And so there are consequences to the separation, and sometimes those are ugly. But I don't think it's like a sin is like you are wrong or you did something wrong. So I really like your perspective on, is it the place of us to judge? I don't think so.
No. And by the way, Jesus loved all the sinners.
Yeah.
Like, I really enjoyed my whole Jesus journey. Like, I watched The Chosen. I watched all the seasons. I went to Bible study. Like, I really was like, I'm going to go all in.
There's
and
so
really
much there.
Yeah. And listen, I had no idea. Like, people would say, like, Jesus was Jewish, but I really had, like, no idea, like, how Jewish Jesus was. And Jesus loved all the sinners, right? Like, he forgave all the sinners. All of the disciples were, like, big sinners, right? And so that's like what I got out of it. It's like, we didn't come here to be perfect. We came here to sin. And some people are going to sin more than others, and some things are going to be a lot worse than others. But you know, if you're enlightened and you believe that you've lived past lives, and look, you might have been a really terrible person in a past life, and now you have to pay.
Yeah.
You
Well, we
know,
all
and
have the capacity within us to do anything good, from like the very, very most evil to the most perfect and holy.
when I started like realizing this, I made a commitment and a vow to myself that I am going to try to live out the rest of my life so that I don't have to come back and do any kind of correction. Right? Like, so it comes down to the point where, like, if I forget to pay for the banana because it got stuck under the bag, I start to feel guilty because I'm like, I don't want to owe Whole Foods 79 cents in my next life. You know, and like, I mean, that's how it goes for me. So if I get into an argument with someone, or if I, you know, whatever the situation is, I'm going to try to nip it in the bud. And I also try to release people. And sometimes I don't. And I'm like, okay, you want to play this game? Like, you'll see me again next time around. And who knows what that's going to look like, you know, because some people, they don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to practice radical forgiveness. I really do. I really like, I've done some not so good things in my life. So I really try to, like, it takes a lot for me to not feel like I can't release you from your debt to me in this life.
Yeah, I've never
That's why
regretted
things happen.
forgiving someone, but that doesn't mean that it's always easy.
No, forgiveness, like, it really took a lot of introspection to really understand forgiveness. That's really how I started thinking about, like, all the horrible things that I've done, you know. And you know, when I was younger, like, I definitely tried to slash a tire. Like, I was very revengeful. And so in knowing that I was capable of, you know, even thinking of doing that, then I have to have compassion for the things that other people are doing, because their lack of love, right? Their lack of receiving love, their lack of being able to give love, whatever it is, the separation from love is causing them to behave in this way. Now, that doesn't mean that I need to be best friends with them. Doesn't mean that I have to say I'm sorry to their face. None of that has to happen. It's just, I'm going to release this energy. I don't need to be around it. Like, I can understand, maybe, you know, some things are really bad and you can't understand it. How can somebody ever do that to you? How can somebody ever say that to you? But all of that is happening because you asked to feel that duality. You needed that contrast so that the next time, or like the next happy moment, is that much happier, that much more exciting, right?
Mm-hmm. And it is. And I came from a like very poor upbringing, and like my life is, I think I appreciate what I have now, like 1,000 times more than I would if I had always been comfortable. But like, I'm so grateful because I know what, and I'm sure you feel this way too. Like, I know what it's like to be afraid and to not have enough. And like you said, like, not know where the money for food is going to come from, or things like that. So it's like the duality and the contrast is a gift.
Yeah. And the journey of becoming wealthy was hard for me. Like, it took me a lot of years to settle into my life with my husband. And even, you know, prior to now, I had an acupuncture practice for 10 years. I had a beautiful wellness center. And when I started becoming really successful in my acupuncture practice, it was like mind blowing. Like, here I went from food stamps, and 5 years later, I'm making multiple six figures working part time. It was like, how does that happen? You know, but that's how it happens. And that's where like the action comes in, like all those years ago when I started manifesting and I really wanted to be an author and a motivational speaker, I asked the universe, put me on my path so that I could become credible enough where people are going to want to listen to me speak.
Yeah.
Right. And then I went on this whole health journey of, losing weight, gluten-free. I went to acupuncture school, and it's like I built my repertoire through that. And that's exactly what I had asked for. I couldn't have known to ask, send me to acupuncture school. I didn't even know what acupuncture was when I made that first vision board, and like,
Yeah.
even the journey to getting there, it's like so wild to me how I got there, and like the fact that I was an acupuncturist for 10 years, like now to me it's wild, like that I did that for 10 years.
It's so cool. And then it makes you excited because you're like, what's next?
Yeah.
Like what else have I not even imagined yet that's
Yeah.
gonna happen?
Well, that's the beauty of the spiritual work that I've been doing in this phase of my life. I'm sure you know a little about human design. Okay, so I'm a projector in human design. So I'm a recovering hustler. I live with a generator. We like our charts like really match up. So I operated like a generator for a very long time, very long time. And so I closed my acupuncture practice in November of 2021. So for the last year and a half, I've really been like in this slow down, like never before. And when I first started learning about being a projector, it gave me anxiety when they were like, you have to take a nap and you have to stop in the middle of the day. And I'm like, I don't nap. You can't tell me to take a nap, But I started doing things like going in the hot tub in the middle of the day or taking a bath at 11 o'clock in the morning and doing things that were out of the ordinary, And now I do things like I'll go get a bubble tea and I'll stand outside and I'll lean against the building and I'll just like admire the trees and the sounds and the clouds and the earth and like just like really trying to stretch time, because before it was like I needed to get everything done and it needed to be yesterday, right? I needed to be a millionaire and it needed to happen like, yeah. So all of life was just passing me by. And in the peak of my best year, I had a $500,000 year and I didn't even like enjoy it because I was too busy chasing the million. And now it's like, don't care about anything. It's like the birds sound so nice. We don't like stop to like really stretch time. And I'm 44 and now I feel like I have a whole lifetime of things still left to do, where before I didn't think there was enough time for anything. So it's been like a very beautiful journey of like stretching time, in the world where everybody's learning about quantum leaping. It's like, first, let's learn how to stretch time. And then let's learn how to leap.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. I can relate. I'm a massage therapist and I work very, very full time in my practice and I'm so grateful. I've been very successful, but it is like, I do have those thoughts a lot and I'm a generator. So I'm a little bit, I can work pretty hard, but you have these thoughts of like, there's not enough time. There's so many other things that I want to do. And like my day is full from the time I wake up, my feet hit the ground and I don't stop until I go to bed at night. And it's, in some ways it's very fulfilling, but yeah, if there were a way to stretch time, God, that'd be amazing.
So I was a massage therapist before I became an acupuncturist.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, and that's kind of how you stretch time, right? Like, because I went from doing one massage an hour to being able to treat 4 patients in an hour. Right. And then in giving up my acupuncture practice, it was because I was tired of just talking to 4 in an hour. It's like when I have a conversation now, I want hundreds, I want thousands, because anybody that lands upon this conversation today that can hook into the energy of where we took it, like, this is magic. It's gold. Like people's lives are going to change, So it was like,
yeah.
Great. I mean, listen, I loved making babies in my practice. I love taking people off of lifelong meds. Like there's so many things that I loved about being an acupuncturist, but in the end, I started getting bitter because I'm like, I'm saying the same thing every day to a different person when I should be saying this to everyone.
One's to many. Yes. and then it lives on because we are so lucky to have the technology that we have. And it's like the impact that you can have. And these conversations are the things that really change your life. And yes, like having your muscles worked out feels good, or like being able to have a baby when you didn't think you could, that's also life-changing. But it's like you said, 4 people in an hour, 1 person in an hour, or this hour-long conversation that as many people forever and ever can listen to.
And listen, Jesus couldn't heal everybody with his hands, right? It was like he chose who he healed. And so like, I think about that sometimes. I'm like, I have this healing power, like these needles really like were life-changing, like the work that I was doing, but that's not it, Like
and there's this verse in the Bible that a lot of people forget about this verse, but it says like, Jesus said that we would do greater works than he did. He told his disciples, like, you will do greater works than I have done. And he fucking healed people. Like, so it's like, what greater than that is what we're going to do. And we have to claim that.
Totally. Yeah.
Thank you so much for this conversation. I want to talk to you for a whole other hour, but I would need to let you go so you can get back to your day.
So good. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Could you tell us how to find you and plug into your work?
Yeah, so you can find me all over social media by spelling Shilamida correctly. So it's Shilamida. There is no E in my room, in my name. Spell check will try to give you the E, but don't click on that one. You can find me on Instagram at 50 Shades of Shilamida, on YouTube at 50 Shades of Shilamida, and I am on Pinterest and Facebook. And I have a show that I do as well, so you can find that.
What's that?
It's 50 Shades of Shilamida.
I'm gonna go check. I mean, I'm already following you on all the things, and I'm definitely gonna check out your show.
Yeah, the show is on YouTube and it's on podcast. Like I do it both ways. I feel like on camera is so much more better than listening. I don't know.
I like it.
So I do both for whoever's pleasure. And it's been a lot of fun. And I've been doing a lot of solo shows, but we're going to go back into doing interviews in the fall. So we'll have you come on my show too.
Oh, that'd be so fun. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we'll continue our conversation.
That sounds amazing.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye.
Bye.